The city burned like a dying god. Flames climbed the marble temples that once touched heaven, and screams echoed through the ruins of the eternal city. Mothers clutched their children as Gothic swords carved through streets where senators once debated the fate of the world. The Tiber glowed red with blood, and the empire that had ruled for 1,000 years died in a single day of horror. This is the story of Rome's last breath. Before we begin, subscribe, like, and stay until the end to witness how the greatest civilization on earth met its end in fire. Dawn rose over Rome on August 24th, 410 AD, a morning that would never be forgotten. The air was thick and still, as if the gods themselves were holding their breath. People whispered prayers in the forum, clutching their household gods, while others ran to the basilicas for shelter. No one believed it could happen. Rome, the unbreakable, the eternal, was surrounded by barbarians. But outside the walls, the Visigoths waited. Alaric, their king, was ready to strike. Inside the city, hunger gnawed at the people. The siege had lasted for months, and bread was more precious than gold. The Senate had tried diplomacy, offering gold, silver, and even slaves to buy peace. But Alaric wanted something Rome could no longer give: respect. He had once served the empire, fought under its banner, and been betrayed. Now he would make them remember his name. As night fell, the unimaginable happened. The Salarian Gate opened from within, historians say by treachery, others by desperation. The Goths poured into Rome like a flood of darkness. Torches burned bright against the marble, casting monstrous shadows as soldiers screamed and steel clashed with prayer. The eternal city trembled. In the narrow streets, chaos ruled. Homes were torn apart, temples looted, and cries of mercy drowned beneath the sound of breaking doors. The people fled toward the great basilicas, clutching relics, crossing themselves, hoping sanctuary would save them. Yet even sacred ground could not silence the hunger of vengeance. Imagine it: the temple of Jupiter in flames, statues cracking under heat, molten bronze dripping like tears. The marble floors of the Palatine ran red as Goths stormed the imperial palaces, stripping centuries of wealth in hours. Gold that once adorned emperors now filled barbarian saddlebags. Among the chaos, some Goths showed restraint. Alaric had ordered that the churches of St. Peter and St. Paul be spared, a gesture of strange reverence in the midst of hell. Those who fled there were granted mercy. Yet even mercy felt hollow when the rest of Rome lay in ashes. Witnesses spoke of mothers who threw themselves into the Tiber with their children rather than face dishonor. Senators, once the masters of legions, hid like thieves. The sound of weeping filled the air, the lament of 1,000 years ending. The looting lasted 3 days. 3 days that felt like eternity. When it was over, Rome was not a city, it was a corpse. The scent of smoke and death clung to every stone. The empire had been dying for centuries, but now its heart had stopped. And yet, amid the ruin, one could still hear the echo of pride, the whisper of what Rome had once been. The roads, the laws, the architecture, the dream. It was that dream that made its fall so unbearable. How could something so vast, so eternal, crumble so completely? To understand the fall, we must look beyond the fire. Rome's death did not begin with Alaric. It began long before, with greed, division, and decay. The empire had split itself in two, east and west, like a body severed at the spine. And without unity, it rotted from within. The emperors had grown weak, more concerned with luxury than leadership. The legions were no longer Roman, but mercenaries, men who fought for pay, not pride. The Senate squabbled while borders bled. And as corruption spread, the empire forgot what had made it great: discipline, duty, and the will to endure. Meanwhile, the Goths, once Rome's enemies, then its allies, watched and learned. They saw the cracks forming. They saw the empire's arrogance. And when they were betrayed, denied land and pay, they turned their swords on the hand that had once fed them. Alaric was not a barbarian in the savage sense Rome imagined. He was a strategist, a soldier, and a man wronged by imperial deceit. When he marched on Rome, it wasn't just conquest, it was justice, vengeance carved in iron. As his men carried the treasures of Rome away, Alaric did not laugh. He was solemn, almost mournful. Some said he regretted the city's suffering. But the tide of history was unstoppable. Rome had planted the seeds of its own destruction long ago. In the aftermath, survivors wandered through the ruins, numb and broken. Smoke still rose from the temples. The streets were littered with bodies, citizens, slaves, soldiers, all equal in death. The air was thick with ash and silence. Saint Jerome, writing from Bethlehem, wept when he heard the news. "The light of the world has gone out," he wrote. Across the empire, disbelief turned to despair. If Rome could fall, what was safe? What was eternal? For centuries, Rome had been more than a city. It was civilization itself. To the world, Rome was order, law, empire, eternity. Its fall felt like the end of time. And in a way, it was. The fall of Rome was not just the collapse of walls. It was the death of an idea. The idea that power could last forever, that men could build something divine. The gods had been silent that night, watching as marble turned to dust. Some whispered that it was punishment, for pride, for cruelty, for forgetting the old virtues. Others believed it was simply fate. Every empire, no matter how mighty, must one day bow to time. Alaric's victory was short-lived. Not long after the sack, he died suddenly, his body buried in secret beneath a diverted river in southern Italy. His men killed every slave who had helped bury him so no one could find the grave. The man who ended Rome vanished into legend, but the wound he left never healed. Rome would rise again in name, under new emperors and new faiths, but the empire that had once ruled from Britain to Babylon was gone forever. The ruins became symbols of glory and decay. Pilgrims came to see the shattered temples, the fallen columns, the broken statues. Rome became a memory, a lesson carved in stone. Nothing lasts forever. And yet, out of its ashes, something new began. The faith that had once been persecuted within its walls now spread beyond them. The cross replaced the eagle, and from the ruins of empire rose the idea of Christendom, a new Rome, built not on marble, but on faith. But for those who lived through it, the memory of that night never faded. They remembered the screams, the fire, the smell of burning parchment and crushed roses. They had seen gods die and empires bleed. The sack of Rome was not the end of the world, but it felt like it. For centuries afterward, men spoke of it in hushed tones, as if naming it might bring the darkness back. Rome's fall was not sudden. It was a slow unraveling, a rot that reached its heart long before the flames did. But when the end came, it came with fury, as if the earth itself demanded payment for centuries of conquest and cruelty. The people of that time could not see what we now understand, that endings are beginnings in disguise. From Rome's ashes came nations, languages, and laws that still shape us. But the cost was unimaginable. As we look back on that day, the day Rome fell, we are reminded of one truth. No empire is eternal, no power immortal. All greatness turns to dust, and all monuments fall silent. Only memory endures. So remember Rome, in all its glory, in all its ruin. Remember the fire that consumed the world's greatest city and the silence that followed. And if you believe history still has lessons left to teach, then like, subscribe, and stay with us. Because next time, we'll uncover another moment when the world changed forever.